So my interest is that I am from Odisha and I belong to a tribal area. The name of the district called Kalahandi. And in that Kalahandi, I had my education in a tribal residential schools. So I was the only Brahmin there, and the rest of the people were belong to SC and ST and others. And in that village, we were the only Brahmin family there. So my whole socialization and enculturation embedded with tribal values, worldview, and culture. So after my post-graduation and a doctorate on folklore study, I was aspirant for a post of lecturer somewhere in a college or university, but it did not happen. But on the other hand, I appeared in the Odisha Education Service and got first. And the then Chief Minister Biju Patnaik was astonished to see a person from Kalahandi doing a PhD and also internationally working on tribal education. That was the entry point. And I met one Gandhian. His name is Chittaranjan Das. He is a blend of Sri Aurobindo, Rabindranath, and Gandhi, and Krishnamurti, and all the spiritual gurus of India, whether it is Kerala or Maharashtra or Odisha, Uttar Pradesh, does not matter. He was a student of Santi Niketan, and he then went to Copenhagen School. There he worked on use of folklore in academia. So Chittaranjan Das was my mentor for quite 22 years. When I came to Bhubaneswar from Kalahandi, I met him and he asked me one question, that you did a PhD using the knowledge of the tribal people of Kalahandi, but what did you give it back to them? In what way you are repaying those debts to the tribal people? You got a doctorate, but what use of your doctorate if all those things are not used for the development of the non-literate tribal people? This was a big challenge for me. And as a student of Ashram School, following Gandhi and the great people of India, it was a challenge to me. And I told Mr. Chittaranjan Das, sir, I am from folklore and serving in education as an administrator. In what way I can be an expert on tribal education? Chittaranjan Das smiled and replied, education and culture are two sisters. They are not two co-wives of a person. So there is no rift or differences between culture and education. If you have properly understood culture and had a PhD on that, you must also understand that education is embedded in culture and culture is embedded in education. So this was a big challenge for me, but over 2 to 3 years being associated with him, I started thinking of my childhood when the tribal children were studying in the classroom and were unable to speak, read and write Odiya because of their tribal people. And some of them are from Dravidian stock, like Gondi, Kond. All these people are about 25 lakhs. This was a practical experience during my studenthood, to conceptualize the gap of home language and school language. And the tribal students were beaten by the non-tribal teachers from the upper class and upper caste because of they were unable to speak Odiya. But the teachers were hating them. They have a negative cultural attitude towards the tribal. So all those insults that I have seen as a non-tribal was very painful for me. And the students were telling that, see, that we are unable to understand school language and the teachers are unable to understand our language. And despite that, how and why they are teaching us. We have come here to survive, having 2 meals and dress and have a certificate. But the way we are treated here is not more than a beast. So that was the problems incubated in my mind for quite a long time. And when I got the opportunity to work with the government of Odisha in Bhubaneswar, I took this challenge to the Chief Minister. He said, this fellow should be given the work of tribal education and he should not be given in any administrative work. That really led me to work on tribal education. By the time in 1994, seven states of India, including Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, and Bihar, Andhra, all the states were taken under district primary education program. And Kerala was the pioneer in that. At that time, most of the primary teachers of Kerala and the diet lecturers were coming as the national resource person to other states of India because of their clarity and pedagogy. But in Kerala, I found the mainstream pedagogy is very strong. And in Kerala, there are about 5 to 7% tribes. And those tribal languages are probably supported by the NGOs, and there was no government policy. So it is a kind of monolinguality in Indian states to which the government wanted to use only scheduled languages. Whoever in Odisha or Kerala or Madhya Pradesh is there, they are bound to learn the scheduled language, not the non-scheduled languages, not the mother tongue of the children, even not to respect their culture, manners, civilization, and all that. So this was a cultural shock to the tribal children. Parents were unable to know what to teach, and how to teach in the schools. That is the work of the primary teachers, not of the parents. And the first generation learners were the tribal children who were unable to understand the state language. So this is the basic premise that I put before the government of Odisha. Odisha has a population of 4 crore. Out of that, about 1 crore people are tribal. There are 62 tribes. And out of those 62 tribes, about 32 tribes have already forgotten their ethnic language. They have mainstream in Odisha. The rest 30 languages were surviving. Out of those 30 languages, 10 languages constitute 50 lakhs people. I thought, where there is a huge gap of home and school language, I use those languages. Then I took up these 10 languages covering 50 lakhs population, like Santali, Koya, Kui, Kubi, Juang, and all that. And all these are belong to, majority of them are Dravidian language group. Another is Austro-Asiatic language, like Santali, Munda, Sabara. All these are from Austro-Asiatic. And the Gon, Kon, Kui, Kuvi, Koya, Kisan, Oram, all these types were from Dravidian language stock. So we took this activity with the help of the district primary education program. Government of India in 1993-4 developed a guideline to the states on primary education, planning for primary education. It was a decentralized planning, local area planning, and contextual education. And the power was decentralized from the state to the district and blocks. So accordingly, the construction of curriculum or the nature of teacher training has to be contextual. So I was first of all a planner for 3 years, getting 330 crore rupees to the state government. But once the money came, I approached the secretary that I want to work on tribal education. He said, "What is that?" I said, "Your state is belong to high tribal population in the country, and your children do not understand Odiya, and teachers do not understand the language of the child." He said, "What is the evidence?" We made a linguistic survey and put them that out of 70,000 schools, 10,000 schools are with linguistic diversity. That was one evidence created by the government, surveyed by the government, and now it is on their table. And they are bound to say that, yes, there are 12 lakh tribal children, out of which from class 1 to class 3, there are about 9 lakh children who cannot understand Odiya. So forget about 21 lakhs, only you focus on these 9 lakh children for class 1 to 3. This was one of the strongest arguments made by a subordinate officer to the CM, an education minister, and education secretary. All people were perplexed. They were disturbed. One chief secretary told me, "You are deliberately trying to annihilate Odiya language. What will be the fate of Odiya identity?" I said, "Then what will be the fate of this 25% of the tribals of Odisha? And what the constitution says about that?" I had only one weapon, that is Article 350A of the Constitution of India, safeguarding the language, culture, education for the tribal children. And the parents have their rights to choose the language for their children as the medium of instruction. But the European monolingual ideology devastated the multilinguality of India by promoting monolingual states. In 1936, Odisha was the first state in colonial India to form a state based on language. But either the British government or the Odiya intelligentsia did not think about the 5% tribes are also a part of Odisha. So when Odisha became the first state based on language, the tribal people were historically ignored from that moment. So when after 80 years, when I started this discourse that this 25% tribal people were ignored while the state formation was made, and there was not a single word on the tribal culture and language and identity in the state formation of Odisha. Rather, there was a monolingual myopia through which they wanted to change the whole tribal children into Odia speaking children. And that tendency still there is in Odisha, even though I have spent 30 years on implementing multilingual education. So according to Sri Aurobindo, multilingual education is like a loving struggle. If you be the most unpopular person in the country or in the state or in your education system, adopt multilingual education and be the most unpopular people in the system. But after 20 years, when they saw all these things, they ignored me, and now they say they are doing multilingual education. And Mahendra Mishra had no idea about multilingual education. So my 20 to 30 years of services to the state government got in vain. Now they are in a soup. They want to again revitalize the whole thing. But by that time, I am somewhere else. I'm with the NGOs. And that NGO is called Language and Learning Foundation, set up by one resigned IS officer. His name is Dhir Jhingran. He knows Kerala. Many Kerala people knows him very well because he was the director of elementary education of the government of India, and he was one person. He was in Assam cadre, but he started to work on language education. He resigned in 2015, and now it is 2025. Over years, we have been able to cover 35 languages with about 30 lakhs children, all are tribals, in the remote part of the country. So this is a memory of my multilingual education work. Then in Odisha, there are 314 blocks. Out of 314, there are 118 blocks with tribal subplan area. That means in those 118 blocks, more than 50% tribal are the native people, and they have their culture and language. And the universal planning was made for the development, either it is economic or educational. It was again a mono-standardized program, either economic survey or economic development or educational development. All things were uniform. So that uniformity was required by the British people to rule the multiple India. But for India, when we got a constitution, what is hindering you to reconstruct a state culture and language and education with its own identity? So this is the question of coexistence of culture and language in India. Professor D.P. Patnaik, who was the first director of Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysuru, he was a thinker on language. His thought was very close to socialist movement and Gandhian movement. He said, Indian languages are not opposed to each other. Indian languages are reciprocal and complementary. It is not like Switzerland or German or France or Finland or Czech, something like that. Those were the states in Europe. They started their monolingual state, one language, one state, one ethnic group, one nation. That oneness is quite difficult in India. It was well understood by the constitution makers. Therefore, while the constitution was written down, more than any topics, the major topic, a number of debates were taken up in the Constitutional Assembly on Indian languages only. You will laugh at me that Bangla, Andhra, Bhasha also wanted to be the national language. So now our Prime Minister says that all the languages are national languages. So it is good for a political discourse, but in the ground realities, you have to understand that mother tongue is the backbone of the cognitive development, cultural development, social development of the child and of the state. So this is most important, that understanding Indian multilingualism is absent in our country. We used to read a lot number of books from the Western world, from America, South Africa, New Zealand, Canada, and we say that there are some theorists, those theories, whatever they have told, those are to be brought into our fold, like what Toves Kutnap Kangas or Jim Cummins, Errol Benson, and some people. And even our Indian multilingualist, maybe they are not more than 20, 30 years, they have also not able to bring out an Indian way of multilinguality that was devised by Vinoba Bhave or Mahatma Gandhi or Ravindranath or anybody. So how our ancestors were mentioning language, maybe it is through religion, through literature, through state relationships, how it was possible to maintain the multilinguality of India over 5,000 years. And there is no animosity between one language to the other. A Gujarati comes to Odisha or Chhattisgarh and he opens his shop. He has not learnt any language, but he came for his own purpose and started his shop. And within 1 or 2 years, he mastered the local language for his business. So language has a purpose. A doctor who comes to Kalahandi and Koraput, the tribal areas, he learns the local language to win the heart of the teacher, the heart of the patient, but not the teachers. Our teachers works for 60 years. At the age of 25, they join the school, and over 35, 40 years, they don't want to learn a single word from the students. What kind of ethical teachership they are doing, and what kind of child-centric knowledge they are providing. So knowing the theory is not important, but to understand the ground realities embedded in the society, maybe the number is 5,000 or 50 lakhs, that does not matter. But if you want to imbibe the constitution, give the cognitive knowledge to the children based on their cultural context, considering that culture is also as equal as to economy, then only it is possible that the state system, governance, political will can do something. Now, multilingual education is not a mainstream point. However, over last 80 years, I found that from 1966 to 2020, it was discussed about multilingual education, mother tongue education. But in multilinguality came in 2005 because of Ramakant Agnihotri, who was our linguistic guru. He said that India is by default a multilingual country. People live with multiple languages, multiple culture, multiple religion, and there was a mutual reciprocity of language, culture, and religion, and they don't feel each other's enemy. एक language दूसरे भाषा के शत्रु नहीं है. One language is not many enemy to another language, rather they reciprocate. So how do they reciprocate? For instance, you see Maratha and Odiya. Bangla and Odiya, Odiya and Bhojpuri, Odiya and Maithili, Odiya and Andhra, you will find only the grammatical part is Karaka and Vibhakti are different, but the rich vocabulary of the Sanskrit and Dravida stock are well understood by many people. If I also speak in Odiya, at least 50% you can understand because of our commonality of vocabulary. That's the point. So when the mother tongue comes to school, who really are very in stress? Government, educationist, pedagogist, parents, IS officers, all these people really feel very disturbed when these tribal languages are coming into the classroom. But after 5 to 10 years, when they see that this mother tongue education has helped the tribal children to have a better literacy, better cognitive development, better social development, emotional development, then they take program as a brand name. Whether they understand the deep knowledge of MLE, we are not sure. But once a program is popularized, either bureaucracy or politics, they want to use it for their own benefit. And MLE is also not away from that. Hundreds of such programs are coming up, but MLE is based on not a superfluous or a surface knowledge that is to be practiced. Multilingual education has three components. One is the socio-cultural domain, the other is the cognitive domain of psychology, and third one is linguistic domain. This is three things that a child must learn through these three pages put into curriculum or textbook writing and teacher training. Here comes one thing. You may prepare some materials for the children in some language, but unless the teachers have a positive outlook towards the tribal children, tribal language, tribal people, and he should understand the moral duty of a teacher to penetrate into the unforeseen mind of the child and create a rapport where let them not understand each other's language, but they understand the language of affection and love. That is also missing. So in that way, a non-tribal teacher, even if he is able to understand the language of the child, if he recites a song or a poetry or a story from the tribal community, the children smiles at them. And then they start discussing about the story and they take 10 to 20 minutes to discuss a story. And teacher must explore this. Unfortunately, teachers are also like junior clerks or a typist. Every day they type. Similarly, the teacher also every day he teach, but he did not able to elicit the beauty of teaching, exploration, avishkara from the classroom teaching. So this is the ultimate aim of any theory, any government policy and whatever. But we find hardly such type of teachers from the tribal community who will come forward to love both the oral language and written language, scripted language and oral language, the social knowledge and school knowledge. So I used to give example whether the agriculture university started first or the agriculture started first. The primary teacher used to say, sir, agriculture started first. Then I asked, if there is no agriculture, can you imagine of agriculture university? If there is no forest, can there be a department of forest? They said no. Then yes, if you know this, then why are you, what makes you compelled to forget the originality of the society, nature, and humanity, and you are plunged into the same bookish knowledge? This book's knowledge have come from the experience only. By that way, changing the attitude of teachers, either tribal or non-tribal, to a fold of one solidarity for the children. Both the teachers started thinking and working on that. I found that about 30 to 40% teachers who are non-tribal, serving in the tribal areas for over 10 to 12 years, are now prone to learn a language. And once they learn a language, they used to say, sir, our mind is deeply engaged with two languages. And research says that a multilingual brain is much more intelligent than a monolingual. In that case, you can imagine the monolingual countries do not have the idea of adaptation, socialization like that of India. Why do people of Kerala found all over the world? What is their secrecy? Why the Gujarati people go to all over the world? It is because of their motive to adapt with new situations, new geography, new business, new learning. And even the Punjabi people of India, wherever they go, you find some Punjabi people in Kerala, they speak fluent Malayalam than original Malayalam. I have seen that. So this is the beauty of multilinguality, with having such a storehouse that there is a lot of folklore in the oral society. Tribal society is primarily oral society, and in that oral society, when the stocks of stories, songs, legends, oral epics, traditional games, music and dance, all these creative arts are available outside the classroom, outside the school. And school is the symbol of colonialism. But we have to mix between the nativity and coloniality in order to be more colonial and more native in our own land. so, so our teachers are now enjoying the beauty of multilinguality, and they also ponder how the community can take part in the school processes. It was very amazing. Then when I was 30 years ago, when I was field testing Saura language, all the villagers came to the school and they were surprised to see that some Saura songs are recited in classroom. They left their pitcher and firewood and stood outside the classroom to listen the song. And they were not able to understand how their language is used in the school. That was not, they were not able to conceptualize what the teachers are doing. Then when they knew that their songs of the village and tales of the village told by the elder people of the locality only are used in the classroom as a lesson, they were overwhelmed. And I found that children were not irregular. After using multilingual education, children were very much free to come to the school, no matter whether they had eaten their food or not. And they were very, they love to stay in the classroom because of their talking in their language. And they were also telling that teachers, sir, you do not know. Let me tell you, this is this. You have to pronounce this word like this. So it is a mutual learning. In multilingual education, A teacher never teaches, or a student never learns. It is a mutual learning and teaching system. It is a joint productive activity from where the child will learn teacher's language and teacher will learn child's language. You will never find such a democratic spirit anywhere in this system. But at the same time, we have to see that how much over last 100 years we have devastated the brain of our teachers through monolingual ideology, and those monolingual ideology still works as a chips in the mind, and that is not removed. And unless that make beliefs are not removed, believe that you are not able to find the spirit of Indian culture, to whom we have ignored. We have invited everybody. We have invited everybody. We have taken up their culture, assimilated to in Indian culture, whether it is Gita Govinda in Kerala written in Odisha or Srimad Bhagavad Gita in 13 scripts, same Sanskrit. So what kind of multilinguality we want to learn from India? So till now, those who are interested in monolingual ideology, they are doing the same colonial work to which colonial people have given to us. So it is a liberatory pedagogy of authenticating materials. What kind of material we should give to the children? It should be from their own locality, because of the tribal community do have a cultural and social solidarity. They live in oral society, and their memory and reputations are much more greater than our written society. In written society, we don't read twice, but in oral society, they recite this song for 30 times to keep in their memory. And this individual memory becomes collective memory, and the songs and dances and stories, oral epics, all these oral narratives and oral creation, oral tradition are in their blood and dark blood consciousness. If those songs and tales are told before the child will connect its racial memory with the textbook story or the songs. That is the beauty of situated cognition, and the culture, cognition, literacy, and self-development will go in a systemic manner. That is what the culturologist and psychologist and linguist used to say. But we have not yet been able to bring out a Indian way of multilinguality. Now the question comes, how to teach class 1 and how to teach the mother tongue and second language? What are its methods and approaches? There are multiple methods and approaches, about 11 and 12 kinds of approaches. One is translation method, one is functional method, one is structural method, contextual method, and Jean Cummins' interdependence theory. One language, if you learn one language, then the ideas and the skills of the first language will shift to second language. So there are such methodologies, hundreds of such books are there, but in Indian situation, we find hardly all those theory put into practices. Therefore, another thing is that the academic domain, university domain, and the government domain, the bureaucracy, they are in a two opposite way. So therefore, that also never happens. Like in Western universities or even in Thailand, when students are passing out from the Women and Child Development Department, their merit list goes to the Women and Child Development Department of the Secretariat. And from that list, they directly post the nurse, doctors, and lecturers. So university has a close connection with the Secretariat. But our secretariats in our system have nothing to do with universities. So knowledge is always subdued by the power. I am becoming more vocal, and this is my way of talking. Whether any political or bureaucratic system uh, likes or dislikes, but this is the reality. And I have given all of my time in advocating all these things in Odisha. Now in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, Assam, Madhya Pradesh, 6 to 7 states, this multilingual education is going on. And I am also, to my capacity, I am helping them. So I am ignoring the how part, the how of MLE. But why MLE is for a social justice, for a linguistic democracy, and for recreating new knowledge and new education in Indian scenario, where barring these 24 languages, about 2,000 languages are in moribund state. They are respected. They are trying for the inclusion of scheduled languages. But the most important thing is the influence of last 20 years of bad influence of last 20 years of mainstreaming or modernization has eroded the Indian knowledge system embedded in our cultural practices, productive behavior, and also in language. These are the massive problems to which the policymakers are not able to understand. Everything cannot be a propaganda. There are some things which has to be planted on the earth, and that should come like a tree. Nobody promoted MLE. Now the whole system is promoting MLE. But how the social multilingualism survived? It is survived because of the people wanted this. Today, people will say that we will speak only 24 languages. Nobody can do anything against them. But now today, people are happy with their 19,000 languages, and those are grouped into 121 languages. And those 121 languages are also, not all languages are taught in school. Not all languages are respected in Sahita Akademi or literary organizations. So the hierarchy of language of power and language of the subjugated, language of power and language of knowledge, language of administration and language of creativity, there are binary oppositions purely working in our situation. And people, those who open it, speak it freely, should have also the voice in the system so that they can really give some ideas to the bureaucrats. So politics and bureaucrats should have a vision about Indian culture and Indian multilingualism, and how Indian classroom accommodate Indian multilingualism through its own way of teaching methodology. We had a teaching methodology. 150 years ago, all the languages of India had a teaching methodology, because it came through Sanskrit, Prakrit, Apabhransa, and modern. In these 4 stages, also added with that the Parsi and English and the foreign languages. All these things conglomerated together and had made Indian multilingualism. So, looking the whole pedagogy from monolingual point of view will never allow multilingual education in schools. That is the important point. And it is embedded over last 80 to 100 years in our Indian education system, which is very difficult to remove. And we also, as the elitist people of India, will have a lot of openness and reservations. Because we have openness, because we want to do it. But the reservation is that who will do this? How it will be done? Is there any political will? Are the bureaucrats are interested? Are the mainstream pedagogists who are very happy with their state language will change their mind? People don't want new things. And if you do that new things, people will join with you without any hesitation. Because they understand that now multilingual education is the hot cake. Here we have our future, so we can do this. So this type of pedagogy from the different parts of academic institutions need to discuss. Indian universities do not have a center for multilingual education. Now NCERT will do one. Because Rama Maganathan is there, he will do that. And most of the cases, we are not getting very promising assurance from the system to use multilingual education. But one thing is that as because there is a national policy in 2020 that multilingualism should be taught up to class 5, extendable up to class 8. But this freedom is given with the responsibility of changing the mindset of the state, politics, bureaucracy, academicians, these three people. And fourth is public. All these 4 points join together and then MLE can be possible.